The boardwalk sank a little under her weight, and the pool beneath it smiled a beat late. Mara stopped. The face in the black water kept shaping a grin after hers had faded.
Do you feel that tiny lag when you move and the glass answers one blink later? It twists you inside. Listen closely now.
I'm Samnang. This is where we trade comfort for curiosity. Find somewhere dark and quiet. Put your headphones on. Tonight's story is called The Mire's Second Shadow.
Mara was careful like armor. She measured steps, folded maps twice, tightened her laces until they bit the skin.
She'd moved towns to make space from what she'd left behind. An apartment of boxes, calls she didn't answer, pictures face down. The shortcut through the fen was supposed to buy her 15 minutes and nothing else. The fen smelled of iron and old peat. It smelled like a place that keeps secrets. Reeds whispered. The boardwalk bowed where soggy roots clung. The sky was low, a wash of cold light that made everything look a little farther away.
She paused at a black pool beneath a broken plank and saw herself there. Damp hair, pale face, slow breath. She turned to check a post, and the face in the water smiled a beat after she stopped smiling. It was tiny, impossible, wrong in a single clear way.
A week later, the mailman insisted she'd collected a parcel that morning.
No. A neighbor swore they'd seen her mowing the lawn at noon.
On the trailhead tally, where hikers leave initials, one of her letters had been rubbed smooth, and then, impossibly, pristine again.
And then the voicemail came at 11:12 a.m. A man's voice, quiet, like he was standing in a hallway, said, "Mara, thanks for stopping by earlier. Good to see you." She played it on the kitchen counter, and the room went very still.
A receipt turned up later from the Blue Finch Cafe. 2 lattes, no signature, time-stamped 1407. Mara didn't remember the cafe that day. Her bag held a lighter with tiny initials scratched into the metal. M.A.
Small things at first, friction that can be explained away. Then they stack and make a shape, patient, deliberate. The fen was doing more than reflecting. It was practicing.
She asked the locals, and half the answers lived on the edge of a laugh. Those pools keep things, an elder said, peat-stained nails worrying a scarf. They'll show you what you miss if you stare too long. He said it like fact. She listened because truth often hides in gossip.
Mara tried to catch it. She filmed the pool on her phone. On playback, the reflection blinked after her, 1 frame late, and then smiled. She watched the pixels until her eyes burned. A want rose in her chest, the kind that makes you promise yourself something, just to stop the aching.
What the fen offered wasn't merely mimicry. It remembered jokes she'd stopped telling. It used pet names she'd given up. It filled in absences with practiced tenderness. People began to mix up who had been where. A friend swore Mara had come by the house that evening. Mara hadn't. Proof slid from her like wet paper.
One night, the pattern went bolder. The reflection waved when she didn't. It answered questions before she spoke them. The pool learned her gestures and started to make them cleaner than she ever had. Denial is time for the fen. Give it time and it learns faster than you do.
Dusk arrived like spilled charcoal. Mara went back, not curious this time, but determined, which is another word for terrified. She stood at the edge and watched the black face perform its lag. She called to it. The face answered with a mouth that formed words she had not yet spoken.
She reached. The water took her fingers like cold cloth up to the knuckles, and for a heartbeat she thought the distance would close. The board creaked underfoot. The reeds leaned as if to listen. The reflection's fingers curled inside the surface and formed a grip of absence. It wanted a life that fit its palms.
The board slipped. A sucking sound rose, wet and unwilling. She hauled herself up, boots spitting peat. Behind her, the pool sealed itself, smooth as a held breath. The face looked calm, practiced, a smile perfected for waiting.
Neighbors helped shore boards and lay ropes. People like obvious fear when it's shaken and open. But belief doesn't stop patience. The next week, a friend called furious that Mara wasn't at a dinner she'd RSVP'd to. Mara had canceled the night before. The friend insisted Mara had been there, laughing, ordering another round.
There was a meeting. Old-timers with peat-scarred hands, scientists with dry slides, methane pockets, optical tricks, folklore. Mara left with numbers and practical advice, and a feeling that the fen remained outside the room, patient as frost.
Her life began to shift around the fen's claims. Receipts, photos, voicemails, evidence that did not match her memory. A Polaroid turned up with her face and a stranger's arm. He swore she had been there. She started carrying receipts, leaving marks on objects she valued. She became an archivist of herself.
Now comes the hard part. She prepared differently for the next visit. Boots, jacket, and a small pocket mirror. Maybe she thought she could out-mirror the mirror. Maybe she hoped to shame it into truth. Whatever she thought, she wanted to hold her own reflection in her hands.
At the pool, she angled the pocket mirror toward the water. Everything doubled. Sky, reeds, faces layered. The fen looked into itself. The reflection in the pool did something different. It looked away for a breath, then back with a face considering its options. The air tightened.
The water did not want to be observed. It wanted to be believed. The mirror flashed. The pool's face turned and, almost shyly, reached along the margin where board met peat. The reeds bowed. Mara felt a polite pull at her bones, the fen's invitation to step into a life that fit.
The life it offered was tidy, a version of her among friends, apologetic in all the right places, laughing at jokes she'd long ago stopped telling herself. It had practiced her better than she ever had. The temptation was sharp. Don't. The cost is never the thing you expect. She stepped back. The fen exhaled like disappointment. At the edge of the water, something small surfaced. A scrap of cloth with a stitch she recognized. The lighter with M.A. scuffed but real. She picked them up like recovered evidence and felt a shallow relief until she noticed what wasn't returned. The exact way she folded her fingers when nervous, the softness in her laugh, those had been rehearsed away.
She set up a recorder with a sound engineer friend and left it by the pool. On playback, there were noises human ears had smoothed. A soft slapping like a palm against wet cloth, a laugh that matched her syllables but carried an under-echo that felt older than anyone in the room.
The pattern narrowed. Friends divided. Believers, pitiers, those who slowly accepted the fen's version. Mara felt smaller. The fen had catalogued a palette of her gestures and offered them back, polished. She had to choose. Fight, leave, or let it take what it wanted and live with the rest.
The true confrontation was granular rather than cinematic. Fog lay low. The board hummed. She went with one friend who refused to let her be alone. The reflection moved with a near-flawless confidence. It called to her in the memory of her own voice. Mara stepped off the board onto the peat, not reaching in, but standing beside it, refusing to cede ground.
Her boot met hollow peat. The reflection leaned and formed a pocket in the water where their hands almost met. For a moment, Mara did not hear words. She felt them, a pressure in the ribs, like someone speaking close behind you. Stay.
She refused. Her friend grabbed her sleeve. The fen sighed. When they turned, fresh peat had scabbed over a section of board that had been fine hours before. In that soft skin was an impression, letters scratched like a hurried signature. Not her name precisely, but a brand that read like claim.
Afterward, life rearranged itself around small losses. Partners left on the edges of confusion. Friends drifted. But there were recoveries too. A sweater returned. A photo posted by someone else that put her in a place she couldn't remember. The fen made trade-offs. It had taste.
Mara learned to live with margins. She kept receipts, stamped small marks on objects the fen liked to copy. She became an archivist of her own life. Still, the core gestures, the tiny things that make you unmistakably yourself, drifted. She would wake and find a new initial in the peat by the trailhead, and something in her laugh would feel borrowed, sharper than before.
The community did not mount a trial against a bog. They posted signs, reinforced planks, rerouted walkers. Life went on with a quiet accommodation to the unexplained. But on fog-heavy nights, people report seeing two versions of someone on a path, one moving with time, the other holding still, practicing a smile.
The last blunt thing found by the trail was a strip of cloth, stitched initials she knew like a bruise. It might have been hers. It might have been rehearsed by something else. She kept living with that absence, like someone who tucks a blanket over a cracked window.
And the final sting. Months later, a hiker posted a photo. In the peat at the water's edge, an initial had been freshly carved. When Mara leaned over the pool, she saw the shadow of her face. No lag now, only certainty. It lifted its chin and mouthed a single clean word. She couldn't hear with her ears, but felt in her ribs. Stay.
If you're still here, the story followed you to the end. Take a breath. Look at the glass beside you, the reflection of your face in the dark. Notice the small delay when you blink. The world offers clearer versions of you. It is patient and sometimes cruel.
I'm Samnang. If the Mire's second shadow stayed with you, share it with someone who listens in the dark. Subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, check your reflection before you cross. The night keeps its own notes. Good night.